my heart, I'm going to end up with 14 heart containers today, so I could take a good 14 races between the two of these guys. I could watch them forever.
Absolutely. And we are off on this battle of Team Knob versus Team Dataface in the absence of BluntBunny Knob. Why don't we start this off? If you're out there in chat, if you are cheering on BluntBunny this evening, give me a B bunny in chat. And if you are cheering on JoshRTA, show us your cute little monkey Dataface. And let's see what the chat thinks. I think it is probably going to be pretty darn close, but I think execution will be solid start to finish.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm rooting for BluntBunny to even up the series, but on the other hand, I want Agahnim to even up the RNG after that 5-1 last time. So I'm not sure, but certainly I'm hoping for a game 3 after this one. Looks like solid sword times for both of these guys, of course. Or for Blunt, I think he nudged up against a corner somewhere.
Yeah, the big thing going on at Escape, and we've kind of joked about it all tournament long on commentary, you know, mentioning pumping and all that. But when you're at this level, this competition, it actually matters. You will start seeing where you'll start seeing these runners. I would not be shocked if one or both of them managed to get a 550 or a 540X Escape. And that all comes down from solid movement, entering doors cleanly. Pumping is important. And it's just not nudging corners like we just saw from Blunt there.
And it also depends on RNG. We saw a bad green guard RNG in that hallway, but we did see Josh missing this spin. So Blunt retaking the lead and Blunt getting hit by this guard, and now we're even. I mean, both of these guys, I have to say they seem, I mean, I say this almost every race, but we've got some nerves here.
Yeah, and luckily Escape is pretty much the best point to get your nerves out. I would say it's been a long time since I've seen a race in a tournament lost in Escape. So if you're going to be shaky, this is the segment to be shaky in. Good green guard quick kill for both, and they're going in to take out the blue guard and get the boomerang. And we're going to be heading into the basement to face the Escape mini-boss. Coming up, the ball and chain guard. 8 slashes will dispatch him, and we'll see how our racers handle it.
And we did see, again, bad RNG for Josh there. Having to boomerang that green guard. We'll have to boomerang him again on the way out, I believe, and we'll lose a little bit of time here to lag. Really weird, just every room a little different for the two of them, and nothing really perfect so far. Just kind of feeling it out so far in this race.
Yeah, Josh waiting until the last second to throw that boomerang to avoid something called a short boom. Those guards kick out little invisible sprites that are used to detect Link, and if your boomerang collides with one, it'll just stop in midair and turn around. So Josh, knowing he had to get right up in the green guard's face to definitely connect with the boomerang.
I had never heard that explanation before, but that is awesome.
That is literally my only contribution to Link to the Past science, is that I discovered how short booms work. So, making their way with a princess in tow, also grabbing a lamp from the chest in Zelda's cell, turns out to be pretty important, as you can't get past the bookcase without it.
Everybody's done that once, but probably not in this kind of setting.
It's one of the rites of passage, is forgetting the lamp, missing the switch in Swamp. You know, those things that happen to everybody.
We've got a nice 420 on the stairs here, and pretty much synced.
Yep. So we're going to make our way to the back half of the sewer. No more guards to deal with, but now we've got rats and snakes and bats, and some dark rooms to navigate, and a few more instances of RNG that can help or hurt the runners. First one here is a rat.
First, the mythical inspiration for this game. we've got the rats and the snakes here in the back of Escape, and that shows you that this game is actually based on the Chinese zodiac. The year of the rat and the year of the snake are 2 of the 12 years. By the end of the game, we'll have the year of the rabbit versus the year of the pig in the final fight. You can tell this is the inspiration, of course, because the text is in Chinese.
Absolutely, that's a little known fact. The Japanese 1.0 version does, for some reason, have a Chinese text engine. They patched that in Japanese 1.1 and fixed it and made it Japanese. Bad key rat for Josh going all the way to the north, so he loses a little bit of time there having to hunt him down. Blunt had a significantly better key rat that stayed at the bottom half of the room.
Now let me ask you a question. We saw Josh kind of frames there before throwing his boomerang. Is that to make sure that the boomerang actually hits the key? Because I know that you can miss the key if the rat is up there and lose even more time.
The idea is to throw the boomerang diagonal, and it can, I believe, help to catch the key on the rebound, because you can, if you just throw the boomerang quickly, it can go seemingly under the key and not pick it up. So you throw it diagonally and it'll catch the key on the rebound.
Well, we did in the end have a low 553 from Blunt, I believe, versus a high 553 from Josh. You know, the gap is visible, but it remains under a second. So, yeah, very close here, and both of them taking the Sankar, as they did last race. You know, even our very close race last time was 6 seconds difference. There's 3 or 4 seconds from the Sankar they are figuring is worth giving up for the safety that Sankar will provide.
Yeah, and every time the runners get down to just 1 heart, keep in mind that it is Sankar that has saved them from the game over screen. Now, we're going to take a short little walk over to Eastern Palace. First Light World dungeon. Still just relegated to walking, no real quick method of movement here. Pumping and entering doors clean is still going to be the big ways that they're going to keep their movement times down. And they're also going to have to start keeping an eye out on rupee drops. There are 110 rupees needed for the first Dark World dungeon, and they're hoping to get 14 of them in drops throughout the Light World dungeons. And most of those drops, since neither of them got a drop in Escape, are hopefully going to come here in Eastern.
We also did see Josh getting knocked around by some Octoroks. The first one in that big brown kind of hilly screen. I don't really know what to say about that screen, what to call it.
The minefield.
One where you're kind of walking past a bunch of different hills. He got knocked in the right direction, so maybe saved a little time from a damage boost there, but then he got knocked in the wrong direction while stunning the mini Armos. So down to 2 hearts. He is getting this heart from the pot, and we'll see if he gets another heart. Probably won't. 3 is definitely more than enough for Josh.
Yeah, as a seasoned runner of this game, he normally runs without Sankar, so he would normally have 3 hearts at this time. But he is going to pick up the spare heart in the Stelphos room, which both runners executed properly.
Now remember, if I'm not mistaken... No, that's another race. I've commentated too many races. I'm thinking of something completely different. Don't even mind me.
Meanwhile, both runners grabbing the safety arrow, so to speak. They could have gambled for an arrow drop from the Igors later in the dungeon, but there's a 12.5% chance that they would get no drops and find themselves in a bad arrow routing situation. So both of them opting to take the second and go and pick up that pot and make sure they get their arrows. Now we're coming up on the poorly named Big Key Skip. Get a damage boost off the Popo, pick up the pot, and use iframes to get through those anti-fairies so you can hit the switch and get the Big Key chest without having to kill all the enemies as Miyamoto intended.
We did see Josh get a nice little magic drop in the skeleton key room. Has basically kind of equalized. I don't know how exactly, but maybe just through good movement has saved a little bit of time back.
Yep.
We do see BluntBunny at 6 rupees to 0. Probably not an important difference, but may require Josh to get a pickup somewhere that Blunt won't have to get.
Yeah, the big thing that we want to make sure is that Josh doesn't leave Eastern with 0 rupees, because you can get some drops in Desert, but a lot of them you have to go out of your way to get. There's a 5-pot you can pick up, but just the way that you progress through Desert, it's very rare that you're going to get a drop in your way.
Wow, a nice recovery from Blunt there. That room got really messed up, and just very intelligently keeping his head about him, shooting those arrows to the right, did not really lose any time at all.
All right, Josh getting a blue drop there and 2 red Igors, and they're both going into the Armos fight, going for a top right, 5 arrows to the right, moving to the top left and firing 13 more down. With the last arrow taking out the Armos they left 2 hits on before he gets mad and turns red. Near simultaneous pendant catches, going to be near simultaneous sword ups. Very good Eastern for both runners, minimizing mistakes.
Yeah, and you saw that magic pickup actually brought Josh from a tiny bit behind to a tiny bit ahead at the pendant catch to the sword up. We did see them both getting 1040s. That shows, both of these players are capable, even with Sankard, of getting well into the 1030 range. That shows you just a little bit of nerves right now. Maybe playing safe in some spots, Josh getting those hearts, and also reminds us of some of the small mistakes that we saw on both sides in Escape. And they're basically synced right now as they move into the dashing and spin dashing stage of the movement of this game.
Yep, this is the first Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch you're going to see. By charging up a sword and pressing A on the first frame after you release the sword charge, you get put into a glitch state. And when you, in that glitch state, move from stairs to flat ground, it allows you to move freely at the dashing speed of 4 pixels per frame. You'll see that a number of times throughout the run, probably saves a double-digit number of seconds. I've heard 20 to 25 thrown around, but you'll see that probably these runners will go for all of them, the optional ones and the ones that are built into the route. I guess theoretically they're all optional, but if you want to go fast. Ooh, Josh missing the library door with that spin speed. Went a little far right.
Yeah, and Blunt's movement, as you can see, even before that, he had an advantage. His movement in this overworld section has been just a little better, and it's amazing watching these great players. Just, you're able to see these little details that can create these very small gaps, but those are the gaps that they care about, and they will spend hours practicing even these overworld screens to make sure that those gaps are as small as possible between what's optimal and what they do on a regular basis.
Yeah, both of these runners are responsible for a lot of the knowledge in the Link to the Past community. Blunt, of course, produced God's Place, which is one of the... It's a human theory TAS done on Poor Little Pink's practice hack, one of the latest practice tools that we have to study the God's Place and see what the best human possible run might look like. Josh also is responsible for a number of tutorials, the Moth tutorial, all dungeons, and a number of others. So both of these guys, students of the game, and are pretty much synced up as they read the book to Open Desert Palace.
Yeah, I don't remember quite where it was, but Josh has recovered in the movement of that overworld. Just a few more precise dashes, a little less lag from enemies can create that difference.
Yep.
Both dashing through this sand trap monster, and both doing the same strat, walking around to the right. And that's a very recent strat that's been developed, I believe.
Yeah, rupees, again, still something to look out for. There's a Circle of Pots room right before the Power Gloves that I would say the runners are going to opt to pick up a 5-pot there. Blunt will still probably want to find at least 3 more, but they would be okay with those 10. I know Josh gets 3 blue rupees anyway when he does tree pulls. At least I think he does. Yeah,
tree pulls along with along with that super speed that we were talking about and the new mire tech, those are the three most recent innovations in this game. And this game has been so studied by now. It's really, you know, the major finds are few and far between, and that's why even a 10-second save on an 83-minute run is so exciting. Like the new mire tech that was found during this tournament.
Yep. Both runners are picking up that blue pot. And you just see little differences in movement. Blunt dashing after revisiting Circle of Pots. Josh was walking that room. Just little differences in movement that you'll see, but for the most part, they will try to execute these rooms in the same optimal manner. Oh, Josh missing the spin speed coming out of Desert 2.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that this segment, although Josh has evened it up in a few places, this segment so far has been kinder to Blunt than it has been to Josh. Blunt also got the good cannonball RNG, and Josh did not. Josh also losing his red rupee drop. I'm not sure if Blunt lost his. Now in the first race, Josh had a beautiful 2-cycle landmo, and Blunt had a very serviceable 3-cycle, if I remember correctly.
A very early 3.
So we're definitely going to be watching these landmo cycles. Do you want to pick one guy and I'll pick the other?
Yeah, I got Blunt. Josh, by the way, taking a hit from the red Igor. Shouldn't be a big deal, though. I'll take Blunt. So they enter the fight, and they sword buffer up to put himself into a good position to get the first 2 landmo. And Blunt... Oh!
And Josh pulls back ahead with, yet again, an advantage in the landmo fight. So what we saw on Josh's side, we saw in the first cycle, he got a very standard 2 arrows per landmo. He had to walk a little bit for the last one, but that's 6 out of the 12 shots he needs. Then in the second cycle, he got 1 and 1 on the first 2 landmos, and then was able to get 2 on the final one to kill it. Then needed only 1 arrow per landmo on the last 2 in the third cycle. So a very, very clean 3-cycle there.
Yeah, Blunt also with a 3-cycle. Almost had the 2-cycle. He was 1 sword slash away from it, actually. But got short hopped, was able to clean up the last one.
We did see Blunt with some problems on his desert escape there.
And we're coming up on the second Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch, Fake Flippers. They're going to jump into the water, 1 frame. Ooh, Josh messing up the setup.
Yeah, Josh. Well, we're okay.
We're alive. Okay. What they do is they jump into the water 1 frame's movement away from a transition, and they get 1 frame of movement before the game checks to see if they have flippers, but the transition interrupts that check. Blunt getting tagged by a pickle there, so he's down a half heart. The transition interrupts that check, and then they're able to swim, but if they take damage while in that fake flipper state and they're not on the screen they jumped in on, it will put them in a soft block position. In the tournament, we're allowing them to save and quit out of it, but normally that would be run over. But both runners getting through. Of course, for those that have been following the tournament through the beginning, the fake flipper soft block was the cause of one of the greatest highlights so far of the tournament in the, I believe it was Trogdor versus Mashy. The double fake flipper side lock, soft lock.
Yeah, and we're certainly happy not to have the double soft lock here. We do see Josh retaking the lead. The number of lead changes that have been happening in this light world, it's just hard to even keep track of. I think that one was caused by a squirrel, perhaps.
Yeah. Both of them having a pretty clean Death Mountain, no boulders, really. I think Blunt, like you said, did take a heart of damage from a squirrel, but 4.5 hearts going into Hera is not a big deal.
Yeah, and just about a second of difference here. So 20 minutes into the run, you know, the leads have been changing since, you know, since picking up the sword. It's been back and forth.
But as we found in the last race, nobody is in the lead until Aga is dead.
Yeah, certainly right. This is all just prologue to a series of coin flips that we're hoping will even out between the two of these racers for a fair race.
We're now seeing our third instance of a Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch. It's something called item dashing. By pressing A and Y in the same frame, certain items will allow you to use the item and start charging a dash. In this case, they did boomerang dashes to hit that crystal switch and dash over to get on top of these blue pegs. That allows them to take a little bit of an input break. They can just sit there, use the iframes from the pegs and not take any damage, and let the tile room auto-scroll its happy self on.
And just, you know, for runners for viewers who aren't necessarily noticing, there's so many nice little things, even in a room like that. You know, both of them starting their dash at almost exactly the right time after throwing that boomerang to kill the last tile. Just because you want even those, you know, those 2 or 3 frames of dash movement through that door. These runners are very greedy for whatever dash movement they can get.
Yep. It was lost in the mirror animation, but I'm pretty sure Josh got a chest turn off of the big key chest, so we have that going for him, which is nice. And we're coming up on the first bomb jump of the run, the Hera bomb jump. They can place a bomb here, and then they can get within 6 pixels of falling off the edge here. And then by using a bonk and the bomb blast, it will boost them across. Without the bonk, they have to be 2 pixels away, but both opting to use the safer bonk setup.
Yeah, both wanting that bonk. Josh getting a little trolled in this room, first by the mini mold arms. And he picked up a very strange middle pot on the right side. And then well, again, trolled by the mini moldums on the left side and having to pick up the bomb pot after going past it already. And now we'll see how the moldum fights go.
Yep, both jumping in.
Josh getting rejected, just 1 slice rejected. So he's 1 slice behind. And both very, very clean fights.
Yeah, Blunt had 1 dash that didn't quite connect with the tail, but and that pretty much evens up with Josh's rejection. But Blunt is, just about a second ahead, coming out of Tower Hera.
Just 1 second ahead. And with a 22:16 to a 22:17, those are very respectable times. Despite the fact that we've seen mistakes here and there, there's really been nothing major. Oh, Josh getting really wrecked by that squirrel.
Ooh.
Losing a couple more seconds there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Blunt had a little bit of trouble getting the spin speed leaving Hera. So, not able to fully capitalize on the squirrel party that Josh found himself embroiled in. And
yeah, both players missing that spin speed, but Josh, the squirrel just making a home literally inside Josh's sprite. Just thinking Josh is a nice place to live. And just knocking 2 hearts of him. And you're seeing both of these players getting a few of these blue rupees, and BluntBunny having pickle problems.
It happens to every guy sometime, you know. Not me, but you know, otherwise. But those blue rupees were the Josh avoiding the bush guard. Those blue rupees are the first part of what we call tree rupees. The game tracks how many enemies you've killed and whether or not you've taken damage. If you kill 4 enemies and you have taken damage and you pull on one of the many pullable sprites in the game, in this case that tree, you're going to get 4 blue rupees. That resets the kill tracker and the damage tracker. If you then kill 4 more enemies without taking damage and you pull another tree, you will get 4 reds. So the big thing here is both of them opted. Actually, Josh did not. I don't think Josh killed the pickle. I don't know that I saw it, but both of them are going to.
Josh got the good pickle firing from below.
Okay,
Josh
so that both of them killed the pickle, killed a bird, and killed a bush crab. So they're going to get a 4th kill here. Blunt and Josh both killing that bird for the 4th kill. And Blunt avoiding the landmine. And now with those 4 kills without taking damage, pulling on this tree will give them 4 reds. That brings them up to 107 and 106 rupees respectively. There will be 6 rupees just in the way in Agahnem's tower, and that will give them the 110 they need to enter Palace of Darkness.
Now let's note, not having full hearts will affect the strategies that Josh is able to employ in Palace of Darkness. There are beam strats that we will see Blunt using, and Josh will have to choose from other strats. He will probably use arrows in place of them, and he is at a lower arrow count.
Yeah, Josh.
So just small things here from that squirrel that will cause some difference. But that pickle strat, given that you dash through those 5 rupees, you could call it the nickel pickle or something. The nickel pickle tickle or something. But anyway.
Josh can use an interesting backup here. Yeah. He did this in the last race. Oh, but he didn't quite get it. Only got a single spin.
And Blunt having to spin as well. And Blunt losing his... Okay, we don't even need to explain the prize pack minute because neither of them did it. Blunt has lost his T-Rock Fairy. And Josh has lost a heart and may lose his T-Rock Fairy on the pod bridge. This is very unfortunate. I actually recommend... Almost nobody does this, but there is an old strat for pod bridge that the Japanese players used to do, where you do not throw your pot at the mini Helma, but you dash through it and knock it off. And that's what I recommend for Josh's situation right now. I doubt we will see that from him, but that's the backup that I would recommend. We did see him with a really good backup in that Gold Knights room. And Josh is somebody who practices not just his main strats, but his backups. And that's very impressive.
Blunt, knowing that his sword beams are going to alert the arrow guard, and waits to block the arrow before dashing out of the room.
Josh with the standard Josh menu. Has to do 2 tries to get over to that boomerang. And really, really back and forth in this Aga Tower. Yet again, we're seeing lead change after lead change. And now just about synced. Although we have to give advantage to Blunt with that higher heart count and 5 more arrows.
Ooh. I don't know what Blunt took damage on there.
Did he get knocked out of his dash? Sometimes you can lose your dash in the room earlier.
Yeah, it looked like he got hit by the Gold Knight, but... Nearly synced exactly entering the Aga fight. So... This is pretty much exactly what you want to see out of Light World. Blunt with a little bit of an advantage on arrow count, which may come into play later. But both of them set up well for rupees, and hopefully Aga is kind. So I will keep an eye on Blunt if you want to keep an eye on Josh, and we'll see how the coins flip. Of course, this race seemed to turn early in their first matchup, with Blunt getting 1 blue ball and Josh getting 5. Each blue ball costs 6 seconds, except for blue balls 3, 7, and 11 cause an extra 6 due to triggering an additional lightning cycle.
You'll see these guys trying to knock Agahnim back towards the middle. Just 1 blue ball each out of the first 3 for both players.
Josh still grabbing that wall, saving the imaginary frame.
You gotta do something.
There's a second one for Blunt.
And just 1 blue ball for Josh. We could see 1 versus 2 here. That would be incredible. And here it is, 1 versus 2. Incredible blue ball counts for both players. They're both going to be incredibly happy about this. And I actually wonder what sort of pace these guys are on. Must be very good pace because they were well below a 29 Light World.
Imagine being on the pyramid before 29 minutes. Just imagine.
I have to imagine. My best Light World was 29 flat myself.
I also would have to imagine. So now we are in the Dark World, and the difficulty here spikes. Enemies will start doing a significant amount more damage. The dungeons just get harder, and Dark World is what separates the top runners from the rest of us. And you're
Dark
also
World
going
and also Light World, as we were noting. Really, all of the game, these players are at a different level. We're now entering the next phase of the Zodiac. This is the year of the monkey.
Oh. Keeping an eye on the spear guards here as Blunt and Josh move their monkey. And it looks like Josh with a 4-second lead. So for those just joining, this is Game 2 of the Best of 3 finals of the Link to the Past No Major Glitches tournament. I am Scrivo. I'm joined by Runner Watcher and our competitors Josh and BluntBunny. Josh leads the Best of 3 series 1-0 right now, but we are, as can be expected, in the midst of a very tightly contested race.
Yeah, this is actually... It looks so close right now, but this is the biggest gap that we've had yet in this race.
Which is ridiculous to say, considering it's, what, less than 5 seconds.
Yeah,
and
we're about
30 minutes in.
And we're 31 minutes into the run, and that's the biggest gap that we've had yet. So keep your eyes peeled. We said the 6-second race last time was very close, but we haven't even seen a 6-second separation yet today.
Yep.
So we're looking at about another 53 to 54 minutes of Link to the Past, if all goes well, and we expect it to remain just this tight the entire way.
Yep. Palace of Darkness is the home of the second of 4... Ooh, Blunt with a little bit of an unforced error bonking on the block there. Opening the gap a bit more for Josh. Home of the second bomb jump that you're going to see. This one is a little bit trickier. The hammer jump, Josh losing his fairy. The hammer jump, you have to get onto 2 specific y-axis pixels, one to place the bomb and one for Link to get boosted across. Josh is using some buffers there to correct himself. A few extra buffers, which Blunt needed less, which allows him to kind of shorten up that lead that Josh was holding on to.
Yeah, Blunt with the superior jump there, and Josh not doing the backup that I recommended. That backup is worth learning. I think. I don't know it myself, so I shouldn't say. But we did see Blunt lose his big magic, which is unfortunate, and Josh lose his fairy, so that will come back to bite us in Turtle Rock. We'll have to keep that in mind. And meanwhile, we're starting to see possibly this is a room where the 12 versus 7 arrows difference will make a difference. We will see what drops these guys get from these mimics.
Oh, Josh having a little bit of trouble with the mimic, but ends up wasting an arrow, but gets the 5 drop at the top of the room.
Yeah, both players getting a really nice drop, and I think we're at, what is that, a 2 or 3 second gap right now?
It is
shooting the eye.
That's about right. So we are now going into the basement of Pod, a couple of dark rooms with some shelled friends, the Fiesta de las Tortugas, and the first significantly challenging boss, first real risk of death, Helmasaur.
Yes, unfortunately there's no Year of the Turtle in the Chinese Zodiac, so my theory is suffering slightly. Oh, and Josh losing a little bit of time here on this turtle room, and Blunt retakes the lead already. See, leads in this race, they are not going to survive. It is going to be back and forth for another 50 minutes. You must continue watching this. I implore you.
So both runners are going to enter the fight. The first phase of the fight, the mask, it takes 17 hammer hits to dislodge the mask. Both runners are going to not use the sword out. They're going to choose to risk some safety in favor of maneuverability. Blunt is able to knock the mask off first. Ooh, gets pinned down at the bottom, but knows how to move, and simultaneous Helma kills.
Yeah, this is incredible. We did see Blunt with the faster destroying the mask. I believe that's because Hellman was closer to the bottom of the screen, so there was just less time that Blunt spent being knocked back after hitting the mask with his hammer. Less time from that recoil. He was able to just kind of wail on it, whereas Josh needed to walk back up more. But after the mask was broken, Blunt lost a little bit of time getting hit and had to play it safe on that last spin.
Yep.
Josh also lost 4 hearts in that fight. So neither of them quite using that Sank heart yet, but very close to having needed it.
Yep. And in a race this close, even something as silly as text mashing makes a difference. They've got to get through these cutscenes. They got to be mashing to make sure they get first frame or as close to it as possible. Text advances here. 35-37 to 35-38 on Sword Out, but it's not even a full second that separates them. So anybody that has played this game casually and has ever looked at the map knows that Crystal number 2, Dungeon number 2, is actually Swamp Palace. But we are not going to be doing Swamp Palace. We are going to head on over to Dungeon number 4 with a quick detour to pick up the flute. So our next stop is Thieves Town, and on the way you're going to see another item dash coming across this bridge. Probably one of the more useful ones. The hammer dash allows us to just mow down this row of pegs instead of having to stop and hammer each one individually.
I don't even know what to say. I'm beginning to be... The fact that this race has been so close and that we've seen so many lead changes while it's been remaining so close. I'm just trying to watch both screens at once, and I'm getting some kind of vertigo from it. Gotta get a drink of water or something at some point.
It's a little bit stereoscopic. If you cross your eyes, you'll get a 3D image from the 2 races.
Oh, let's talk about quick warps. I think Blunt got his. I'm not sure if Josh got his. But every time you warp in either direction, there will be 2 pixels out of 8, I believe.
Yes.
I forget if it's vertically or horizontally. Even though I know how to do it, I forget what the science is. But that will save you 32 frames every time you get a quick warp, which is almost half a second. So consistently quick warping across the run can save up to 12 seconds. Very few players will get every single one, but there are a few that are completely free. And there are others that are almost free.
Yeah. Blunt is going for a spin speed here coming out. He's kind of got the Wind Waker pose going on, but what he's doing is he's setting up a charge, and he's going to activate that spin speed glitch and go up and touch some stairs to save a grand total of 10 frames, 160 milliseconds is all that can possibly save done optimally. So it's just, at this level, that is the type of optimization that these runners will go for.
And note that he used his hammer buffer to do that. In this game, we generally like to save our item switches until a point where we need to look at something on the screen and judge, where is that enemy, or where is Link's shadow for a quick warp, or have I dashed far enough? Do I need to hold A for just a couple more frames after I get out of this menu? That is, every player uses slightly different dash buffers. Menu buffers, but almost every, well, not almost every, but a lot of the menus in this game are thought very hard about by the runners.
I have never seen that red horse head knock somebody out of their dash, but Blunt got knocked out of his dash and took 2 hearts of damage. That is usually kind of a throwaway screen there. You just walk up and dash right, but the red horse head got right in there, and Blunt is having a little bit of trouble here in the early part of Thieves Town.
Yeah, we are in the year of the horse, and Josh has retaken the lead.
Well, Blunt thought he was going to get through that room safely, and the red horse said nay.
Oh, no.
we're coming on to one of the more famous rooms in the run, the Hellway. Blunt getting the good RNG and getting the God Pixel, but then gets bad RNG at the top of the room, which knocks him out, and Josh is having to do-si-do around the Anti-Fairy and Fire Snake.
Yeah, Josh was really horsing around there.
Coming up here to the attic, gonna use another item buffer here to read these goblins, because they will do 2 hearts of damage. I don't know why, but they do.
Those are also enemies that can knock you out of your dash. Being knocked out of your dash is a rather unpredictable thing about dash movement in this game, and can happen at some of the worst moments. There are a few very frequent ones, like a Buzz Blob in Swamp. That one is just really annoying, but can't really kill you. But these that you can see in Thieves can really knock you down health-wise, as we saw on Blunt's side of the screen.
So you saw Blunt there choosing to pick up a bomb there in Thieves Town basement. I don't know if that's out of habit or if it's just a precaution for in case the mire spooky glitch goes wrong. Josh opting to skip it, knowing that he shouldn't need it if all goes correctly, and Josh having a little bit of bonk trouble in that last jail cell.
That's why I just walked through that jail. Josh has not gotten out of jail free, unfortunately.
A little bit of Sean Cass action, kicking up dust, trying to open the chest for BluntBunny. But we are still tied.
Yeah, this is amazing, and that bad chest opening did put Blunt behind for a second, but then the worst Buzz Blob RNG and another bonk for Josh has put Blunt back ahead. Josh does get a bomb pickup, so both have more than enough bombs. Remember that we do need 1 fewer bomb now, although I'm sure both players will probably save that extra bomb for safety in Mire. Both of them do not want, they will want that 10 seconds that they saved from the new glitch in Mire, but they will not want their race to rest on that glitch.
Yep. Both runners executing the blind fight perfectly. The blind fight is a very easy fight once you learn it. It's very difficult until you do. Blind will pretty much react the same way if you do the same thing every time. So we use a quick kill setup there, devised by speedrunning royalty Cypher. Used to be an avid runner of this game. You may have seen him at a GDQ in the past. Most recently, though, he is known for ruling the Mega Man 2 world.
And we've got a 2-second gap between these two players. I mean, how evenly matched are these guys? We had a 6-second gap in the first race, and this race has not been more than a 6-second gap for almost 43 minutes so far. It is now down to a 2-second gap. These are two titans of Link to the Past who are just kind of wrestling with each other in various states of dress and undress to see who is the strongest.
"43 minutes and 10 seconds. That's how long it took for Runner Watcher to get me to break. Blunt is going to just press A, and an extra A to try to talk to the frog. Is the Year of the Frog on the can?
I don't think there's a Year of the Frog, and I don't think there's a Year of the Moth either, unfortunately. I don't think there are any bugs.
This is really a very loosely tied metaphor that you've tried to string along for us.
Yeah, I unfortunately, this is usually around the time in the commentary that I forget what I was doing in Escape, and the whole narrative kind of falls apart, unfortunately.
This is about the time when my run usually falls apart, so I guess it all works out. So, during that, we So we did Dungeon 4 early. We did Dungeon 4 early so we can get the Titan's Mitt, so we can pick up a rock, so we can get the frog, so we can get the Tempered Sword. Tempered Sword is going to make the boss of Dungeon 3 and Dungeon 2 a lot easier, as well as all the enemies that we fight along the way. It also lets us get the flute earlier for fast travel. So we are now going to jump back to... we're now going to jump backwards and go to Dungeon 3, Skull Woods. Skull, if you've played the game casually, is probably one of the more confusing dungeons if you're going through it casually. There's a lot of different entrances. You can fall in holes, you can go indoors, but you know, from a speedrun perspective, we're just kind of gonna get in, get some items, kill a butterfly, and get on with our lives. You're not gonna see a whole lot of the dungeon.
No, although Skull is a very fun dungeon in some sense because you have a lot of very technical rooms in a row, and it's over very quickly. So, you know, it doesn't last very long, but it's very enjoyable.
Easy. Stay on target. Very good statue room for both runners and a chest turn for Blunt.
Yeah, good mowings from both runners. We are going to see a bomb jump coming up, and then after that, in the second part of Skull, we're going to see a difficult hellway with mummies and also a difficult room killing a mummy to get a key. And then Mothula itself is one of the more annoying and RNG-dependent bosses.
Yeah, Josh pretty much wrote the book, though, on the Mothula fight. Anybody that has ever asked the question, how do I get better at Moth, is invariably going to get linked to Josh's tutorial, so... Very good first part of Skull for both runners.
Yeah, both runners very solid. We do still see that 17 to 11 arrow count. Both runners have lost 2 hearts, but that's exactly the 2 hearts you expect them to lose. Walking, for some reason, in that room much faster than dashing. There's a few other rooms like that where it really looks like the dash should be faster, but then you test it and it's really walking is much better.
All right, Mummy Hellway coming up here. Actually, Josh got kind of a mummy bodyguarding one of the torches there, it looked like.
I think that was Blunt on the left there. Blunt,
Josh had him.
Blunt went for the faster strat and went around to the right. And Josh went for a slightly slower strat, safer strat, and dashed up to the left. And that safety paid off. Now, Blunt is out of magic, but Josh has switched to the mirror already, so we won't see that difference making a difference. Kind of slightly annoying Mothulas for both players, but they're both down pretty quickly.
Yep, using the Josh rating scale, based off your Moth fight is graded on how many spikes move. Blunt had 2 spikes move, so he has an 80%, which is a solid B average. Josh with 4 spikes moving, that is a 6 out of 10. That is a 60%. I'm sorry, Josh, you were at the grading scale, but for the second race in a row, you have failed the Moth fight. I'm going to have to put you in Remedial Moth 101. I'm sorry,
yeah,
them's the rules.
Just very disappointing from Josh. The only place I could think that we might be on the Zodiac is because we were just going through Kakariko Village. We could be in the Year of the Rooster. There's a lot of roosters around Kakariko Village.
That there are. And it looks like about 2.5 seconds separating the runners right now. And with Dungeon 3 completed, we are now going to go on a quick shopping trip. We're going to, real quick, pay attention here. BluntBunny just tooted the flute, and you might think, well, why did he do that? There is something in the game called the altitude variable. The altitude variable is used for a few different things. One of them is it is set by the duck as the duck kind of swoops onto the screen. The other is that it's used for the fire rod to judge where the area of effect is going to be when the fire rod splash damage hits. By blowing the flute there, it sets the altitude variable to 0 in preparation for the duck to come on screen. And that value of 0 will make the first room of Ice Palace a little bit easier and about 4 frames faster. And that same altitude variable will come into play in Mire with the spooky glitch that we will explain in a bit. But for right now, our runners are going to stop, chuck a rock at a fish, and get the Quake Medallion, and then go buy some Zora Flippers.
This is apropos of nothing, and it doesn't affect the race at all, but somehow Blunt got up to 618 rupees, which is really a lot. I guess he must have gotten a red and a blue pickup in Skull Woods.
An interesting and also apropos of nothing fact is that we recently learned that the higher the value of the tens and hundreds column of the rupee counter, the more lag that you generate. So if you do the same thing with 0 rupees or 990, you will find that 990 rupees generates more lag. Why, you say? Because A Link to the Past.
Yeah, that's I've been commentating a little bit of the Super Mario World 11 exit, and there is there's a similar thing there where the more zeros you have in your score and your lives column, you know, zeros generate less lag than other numbers for some reason. I have no understanding of why this would be. But meanwhile, we have seen Josh, I don't quite know exactly how, but we have seen Josh close the gap just a little bit here. Probably down to just about a second going into ice. Now, I do think Blunt may be able to save a little bit of time. I don't think Josh set that variable. We did see Josh canceling his dash, which also saved some lag.
Ooh.
And Blunt missing the warp, so Josh has come back ahead.
Tiny warp strikes again. I'm pretty sure Josh did set the variable. We just have Blunt's game audio. But we'll see. Yeah, Josh was able to set it, and Blunt also got it. It makes that Freezor in the top left a lot easier to kill. And it allows for a little bit quicker movement through the room, saves up to 4 frames. Just little optimizations like that.
It's very satisfying to watch that Freezor die. I don't know why.
Probably because of all the times that in learning the game that I've missed him.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So Ice Palace is a dungeon that we are going to not do the right way. The whole dungeon is a carefully designed and thoughtfully planned out puzzle where you're supposed to have to cycle through. Oh, Josh, having some trouble, gets hit by the red berry there, and has to throw another bomb down and takes 2 hearts of damage.
Good recovery from Josh, but he will not be able to use the beam strat on this room coming up. That's the main difference that we're going to see. This room coming up will be much quicker for Blunt, except he needs to adjust downwards to get upwards to get the key anyway. And wow, very, very close between these two players, both with these 9 hearts.
Both with very nice Ice Palace bomb jumps, and that breaks the puzzle right there. You're supposed to have to kind of loop through the dungeon a few times to get the big key, get the big chest, and then make the way to the boss. But by getting through that room with the orange pegs still up, it means that when you get to a room coming up, the blue pegs will not be up to block your way, and they can just progress straight to the boss. Skipping the big key and big chest means that they don't have the blue mail, which is meant to mitigate the damage from Cold Stare, who in their green mailed state, the falling ice crystals will do 2 hearts of damage and the pink puffs will do 4. So Cold Stare is a very dangerous boss, but both runners are in a pretty good condition. Both of them are able to sustain 1 hit from a puff, but hopefully we'll see both runners executing a quick kill up in the corner. Slightly different strats here. Oh, actually no, Josh isn't gonna push the statue from the I think he may have needed the magic.
Yeah, I think both of them needed the magic. Equivalent hearts, basically, and synced fight.
Gonna see 2 different strats here, I think. Yeah. Very nice. Blunt with a poke, spin, and slash. Josh with a double poke and double spin. But both of them killing Cold Stare quickly. And we're still tied.
Yeah, it's almost exactly tied. Josh had just one problem in that fight. I think he just didn't quite catch one of the puffs with maybe both of his pokes or maybe just his second poke. And so although the double spin hit all three of them, he needed one last slash to finish off the last puff. Somebody in chat saying, this is so intense, I can't take it. I agree. The fatigue is really starting to set in. I mean, this has been a virtual tie for 54 minutes. I don't even know what to say. I can't remember another race that has been this close for this long.
It is everything I could have asked for.
1 second difference here at the sort up of Cold Stare.
All right, so coming out of Ice, our next dungeon, we're going to kind of backtrack in the dungeon order and head on over to dungeon number 2, which is Swamp. And, of course, we're a little bit overpowered going into Swamp. We have a few more hearts than we should. We have a Tempered Sword that we're not supposed to have. So Swamp is not really a dungeon where you can kind of take a breather and not worry about dying, usually. However, the way that Swamp is constructed, the way that the enemy RNG plays out, this is a dungeon where you can just find yourself bleeding time and not really know where until you go back and look at it. It has been coined the death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah, there's so many enemies that can just knock you out of your dashes and do all sorts of damage to you.
Double anti-fairy skip, by the way.
Yeah, beautiful room. I don't even know how much time that saves. Almost very little, I think.
Double quick warp, by the way.
Just beautiful. All these little things that, you know, we can't even mention all of them. But these little strats on rooms that, you know, people like me and Screever might not even bother learning because it's just a few frames, and these guys are getting every single one. Quick war if there's half a second for both players. And we did see BluntBunny, I believe, having some problems on the first room. Or we're actually both players we saw having some problems on the first room of Swamp. Having some problems killing all of those water sliders.
Ooh, Josh missed the lever!
Oh no.
Wow! It's a small mistake, but it's very uncharacteristic. You want to watch for the lever to wiggle 4 times, and then you're free to get off of it because it's going to push. And he got off of it on the 3rd wiggle instead of the 4th. Meanwhile, Blunt getting into it with a water Tektite there. So it just seems that every time one runner makes a mistake or has an instance of bad RNG, the game gets it back for the other guy. So
yeah, and that's been going on since Escape, since that bad RNG with the green guards from Blunt versus the bad key guard for Josh. You know, what happened with Josh in that room earlier, you know, sometimes in these settings, you just have to say, oh, that lever happens.
It is just this game. So another thing to note about Swamp, Josh is going to have to deal with that red berry pretty quick coming out of this cutscene. And it ends up hitting the switch 2 extra times trying to clear the berry out. In their last race, there's a quick kill that you can get on the boss of this dungeon that involves hook dashes and some pretty precise movement and fast button pressing. Both runners missed it last time. If one gets it and the other doesn't, that's a 7-second swing. So we'll want to keep an eye going into the Argus fight coming up.
Yeah, and that would be just about, you know, it's such a difficult kill. It's such a difficult strat, but that would be just about the biggest difference between the runners that we've seen so far. And, you know, I first learned about the Zero Cycle Argus when Crystal was doing a stream called Hardest Trick in the Game, you know, and everybody said this will never happen in the actual Link to the Past runs. And then people found a somewhat easier setup for it, and now it could potentially be the biggest swing we've seen yet in the finals of the Link to the Past No Major Glitches tournament. So just incredible the level that these guys are playing at, and the level that this game has gotten to. And BluntBunny with some bad enemy RNG, and Josh is back to about the 1 second gap that he was at Cold Stare.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny that Zero Cycle Argus started out as a Taz-only trick, and now I see runners with 140s practicing it and sometimes getting it. Yeah, using a hook dash there to put Link in a glitch state, which lets them lift that skull out from under the statue, and we're back to being synced up.
Yeah, both getting good RNG on that red buzz blob. Yeah, Josh must have done that room a little bit better. And he has levered up and is having no problem with this one.
I see what you did there.
Thank you. I tried.
All right. Blunt is opting to... Josh had to grab that bomb. I believe he lost one in the bombable floor and ice. So he picked up the bomb in the restock room, both of them getting the arrows, and both of them having a little bit of trouble here in the Michael Phelps Memorial Olympic Pool. But we're going down to the Argus
having
fight.
more trouble, and Josh back ahead despite that lever room, and let's see how the Zero Cycles go.
I don't think Blunt's going to get it. No, he did. Okay. Josh, and then Josh didn't get it, so that is it. That's a 7-second swing right there, because Josh also had a couple of extra movements after the cycle.
Yeah, both with a perfect fire rod kill, and what have we got? We've got a 5-second difference. So this is the largest lead just on the strength of that Zero Cycle alone. This is the largest lead. That was such a strange swamp. Blunt was getting bodied by everything, but besides the RNG of the enemy movements, Josh's execution was just worse throughout on that lever and on that Argus fight. And this is the largest lead, believe it or not. 5 seconds is the largest lead that BluntBunny has had all race. And the largest lead that Josh has had all race was also about 5 seconds back in Pals of Darkness. So that's how close this has been. All props to Blunt for executing the most difficult boss fight strat in the entire game.
Yeah, I was watching those puff patterns as Argus was moving down, and I thought he was going to get a little bit boned, but was able to pull it out there. And that 5-second gap. Now we're going to go on a quick shopping trip. We need an Ether Medallion to open up Misery Mire, and the runners are probably going to opt to get the Ice Rod on this split as well. Blunt having a little bit of a problem with a squirrel, but is able to get through. And you're seeing our runners do something called a sword climb. By holding your sword out and then doing a hook dash, it allows Link to just race up the stairs, and then you can release the charge at the top and still maintain the glitch state and get spin speed off the top of the stairs. Hook dash allows... Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say an interesting thing about the quick warps. You saw Josh just get his quick warp there. That quick warp, and I believe some of the others, it actually changes after you've killed Agahnim. So on your first to your second trip up Death Mountain here, your first trip up to Hera and your second trip up here to get Ether, you use a different pixel to get that quick warp. Yeah, another strange thing about this game that just seems to have so much whimsy and so many kind of little peccadillos.
I believe it has to do with how you move through the screen, because the quick warp is some math done on the camera's x-coordinate position. So if you were to still use the pre-Hera movement with the normal spin speeds and all that, I believe the quick warp will still be in the same spot.
That makes sense. We did see Josh get hit by a crab here. BluntBunny getting picked up at 103.12. Josh getting a heart, getting picked up at 103.15. So the gap is back down to 3 seconds.
And we're going to start seeing that spooky glitch set up right here, by the way. When they fluted here to 6, they went below that rock to let the bird exit the screen at a specific height, setting that altitude variable that we mentioned earlier. And that altitude variable is now in a very strange condition. What it will cause is it will mean when you shoot the fire rod, it will actually affect things nearly a full screen away. And you'll see us using the fire rod and tripping switches that you can't even see.
And Mire is always interesting because there's slime coming out of the floor, there's slime coming out of the ceiling. And there's wizards disappearing and reappearing. You saw, I believe, Blunt go for just a slightly faster strat here on this room.
Josh had a real bit of a problem in Mire 2. And then he ended up having to fire rod the last of the popos and then have to wait for the fire rod animation to finish up before he could exit the room.
Yeah, and now I believe this now is our largest gap we've seen in this race. It's up to a full 7 seconds between the two of them, which is nothing.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Josh not picking up a heart container that dropped from those wizrobes in that room is used to doing runs without Sank Heart, so does not need that heart, but maybe regretting it because he did have time to get it while he was waiting for that popo to die from the fire.
6 seconds separate them right now, by the way. 105.03 to 105.09 torches times.
And of course, both runners, you know, they've lit the torches and it's lit, but they're, you know, they're about to fall into this abyss, and it's just like the way you feel after the party when it was lit the whole time at the party, but then you go home alone and you just say, here I am with the nothingness that is myself, with slime falling from the walls of myself
It just
and
got
becoming a new self. That's the best I've got for today.
So now, as we make our way through the main hub again, heading back to the Can of Samaria.
Interestingly, neither player going for the spike gamble. I mean, for the spark gamble. Sparks and spikes and other things in this game. Both players deciding to save that heart. It's so close, and these players are thinking, you know, safety first at this point. Blunt does lose an extra heart there on the spikes. Just was caught on the side of that chest, I believe. So it's 8 hearts each at this point.
And now we are going to start with the spooky action glitch, the latest and greatest in Link to the Past tech. So what you're going to see here is a little bit of sprite data swapping. They're going to kick up dust before placing the Samaria block. That's going to keep that altitude variable queued up in a specific slot. And then as they go into this room, you're going to see BluntBunny maneuver around the pipe railings as normal, and he's going to buffer to fire rod and fire rod the spike. And you hear the switch go. That switch is a full screen away, but the displaced area of effect from the fire rod is going to trigger that. And then in this room, he's going to fire rod an anti-fairy, and he's going to hit a crystal switch that's in another room entirely. You're going to see Josh do the same thing, and then fire rodding the right side of the torch is going to hit that crystal switch at the top of the room. 12 seconds saved, just like that.
Yeah, perfect execution from both players. Slightly different strats. Blunt dashing, Josh walking, but perfect execution and perfect explanation. And now we're on the Vidi fight. These players will be taking some intentional damage to get these spins in, but not a problem. Josh using just a couple extra arrows. Blunt on that incredible arrow count, 18. That is such a healthy arrow count. It is so rare to have that many arrows at this point in the game. Josh down to 11, which is really also enough. And really very, very solid mire from both players. The losing a little time on Blunt's side on the Death Mountain, and then Josh getting crabbed, which was stressful, and also lost him some time in the Wizrobes too, but he was able to gain that back in execution in other rooms. And just very small things, and the gap remains just so small.
And as we leave Mire, our sort up times, 108.33 for Blunt, 108.38 for Josh. 5 seconds separate the runners coming out of Mire, heading into the 7th Dark World dungeon coming up, Turtle Rock. Now, coming into Turtle Rock in the last race, Josh had an 18-second deficit, which he made up a good chunk of So we'll have to see how the times fare this time around.
Yeah, we do see that gap, that 5 seconds is exactly what it was coming out of Swamp. So these players have remained so consistent with each other. And there's so many things that can go so many different ways in the end of this game. But both of these runs have been just so textbook. I don't think either of these players can be unhappy with a single thing that's happened so far on either side. One blue ball versus two blue balls. And just incredible skill so far, and we certainly hope that it remains competitive through this end game.
Yep.
Remember that neither of these players will be getting that fairy.
Yep. Both runners solving the hottest peg puzzle since Cracker Barrel, and both of them also having a little bit of squirrel trouble in front of the rock. So both taking a heart of damage there. And using a medallion dash, not to get spin speed so much, but to get into that glitch state, which lets them get a first frame quick hop as soon as they approach that ledge. Very small thing that you wouldn't necessarily see without an input display. But again, another of the... Ooh, that blue jelly just getting in Blunt's way, that is a big deal. He does not have that fairy, like you said, and he's already down 2.5 hearts. I wonder if he's going to pick up the heart pot.
Yeah, I actually wonder a lot about the decisions that these players will make, knowing the situation they're in. Blunt is not only missing the fairy, but also will not get that big magic drop. I'm very interested to see what sorts of decisions come out of this Turtle Rock. They are both... Well, Blunt at least is going for that damage boost.
So is Josh.
Josh doing it as well, both getting the fast red on that damage boost. And Blunt, knowing that that magic is not coming, gets both the heart and the magic. Josh with slightly higher hearts and with the magic coming does not. Josh also getting hit by that Buzz Blob. You do not want to swing at those Buzz Blobs, because if they turn electric, they will knock you off and you will lose the health anyway, and you will lose a lot of time.
All right. So Blunt having a much easier time in the chain chomp room. Oh, Josh is dead!
No. Oh,
Josh
no.
is dead!
Josh got rocked there by those chain chomps, and of course, the gap will now be much larger than it has been yet in this race.
That, just like that. That is... Chain chomps were the story of last race, because Blunt got blocked off in the chain chomp room, lost a lot of time, and this time Josh just... Without having that fairy there, the prize pack comes back, and he is in a low heart situation going into chomps. He's having a little bit of problem with him again. But Chain Chomp swung the last race, and Josh just took another hit. He's down to 3 hearts.
Down to 3 hearts yet again. Josh is now a race that was only 5 seconds apart through an hour and 10 minutes. Is now almost a minute separation, and Josh only has 3 hearts. His task here is simply to keep his head about him and play safe, and just stay in it, thinking about the things that could happen to Blunt. Because the potential for tilt here is so high. The race has been so close. We've been on the edges of our seats for a long time, and the
another death!
And yeah,
there's
another one.
He went for the strat. He went for a very precise strat to get the key dash with that key on the bottom left pokey RNG, and he was just... I don't know if he was a little too hot, a little too low, or a little too slow, but he caught that laser straight to the face, and I don't like to call things before they're over, but I mean, that's a big one. To take the death before picking up the big key is... Now, that said, Blunt had a bit of a party on his laser skip the last time around. So
yeah, there's all sorts of things that can still happen to Blunt. I just worry about... I don't even know if these players are watching each other's streams, and I think that Josh getting that second death, you know, there's just obviously been a kind of a loss of form and a loss of focus on Josh's side. And you really need to, once you lose that state of just intense, you know, doing exactly what you've done in practice, room by room, every single room, and he gets hit again. it is going to be so hard for Josh to mount any kind of recovery from this point. This has been an hour and 70 minutes of perhaps the best Link to the Past race I have ever cast or maybe even watched. But at this point, it is going to be so difficult for Josh, even from a mental perspective, to make a comeback.
Yeah, we're talking about like a Phase 4 Ganon fall here, something just totally out of whack for Blunt. But Josh does have the benefit of knowing that he went into this race up 1-0. The worst thing that can happen to Josh at this point is he has to do another race. That's it. He had that going in, entering T-Rock. He knew that no matter what happened to him, the worst thing was that he would have to do a third race. Meanwhile, Blunt has had to play this entire race knowing that the worst thing that happens is that his tournament is over and he's congratulating Josh. So it is, you know, it's a different mindset that Josh is able to play with here. Blunt, by the way, getting the pretty solid quick kill on Trinex with the back door. And Josh, again, having to keep an eye out. He's down to 3 hearts. And he got hit on laser skip last race. And that would be... Oh, well, let's not see it. All right. Josh getting through the laser skip. He's probably going to pick up the heart before the Trinex platforms. At a 1:15:39 sort up for Blunt.
Nice bonk there. Josh dashed from the right to avoid getting hit by that. I keep forgetting what those guys are called.
Lionels.
No, on Josh's
side.
The orange bouncy ball things.
Pokies, the Hokobokus.
The Hokey Pokies. And had just stopped too far to the right and got a bonk here. Meanwhile, on Blunt's screen, we're going to see, obviously, the beginning of Aga Tower. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Okay, maybe we should focus on Blunt from here on out and see how he finishes up this Aga Tower.
Probably reasonable. So, Ganon's Tower is a very complex dungeon. You have spent the first hour and some odd change collecting all sorts of items, and now you are going to be asked to use them efficiently and expertly. Rooms here like the double crystal switch, where you're going to combine both the boomerang and the hook shot to get through quickly. And then we're going to be using the hook shot here in this next room. You're going to see him kind of hook through a block after pushing it. Well, he would have if he didn't get hit.
Yeah, he's already taken a little damage. Some nerves on Blunt's side as well. Josh is back around to that fairy in the prize pack.
That is you never want to see the second fairy. Yeah, that usually means something is gone. You hate to see
that, as somebody's been saying that a lot recently. You hate to see that. Meanwhile, Blunt getting rid of his bombs. You do want to get rid of all your bombs to save like a frame on a menu.
So Blunt is going to drop into the first of the Light World boss refights here. Armos, each Light World refight is going to have a twist. Armos's is that it's on ice. Still have a quick kill that we can do from the bottom right. And Blunt executes very well and is going to be on to the upstairs of Ganon's Tower. Upstairs in Ganon's Tower, we're going to start off with a couple of challenging rooms right off the bat. The Mimics rooms, after we get through the spike floor. Some of the Mimics rooms are some of the hardest to optimize. Just getting the Mimics to go where you want them to go as quickly as possible and killing them is not... Ooh. Blunt's still taking a bit of extra damage, down to 5 hearts now.
I believe Blunt is at 9 hearts.
Yeah, I mean, he's taken 5 hearts.
Right, yes, that's right.
Yes, yeah, the opposite of what I said.
The Mimics rooms are are rooms that you'll see both of these players just doing over and over and over in their practice streams. Blunt, despite getting hit by one of the mimics on the first mimics room, ended up doing pretty solidly on both of them and is now onto the gauntlet.
Yeah, the gauntlet is a series of 5 rooms, each increasing in difficulty. You start off with conveyors, then you're going to add in conveyors and beams, and then you're going to have conveyors and beams and ice. Ooh. Or conveyors and beams and spikes, then conveyors, beams, spikes, and ice, and then just a whole mess of ice.
Yeah, not perfect enemy patterns, and Blunt is really showing how much he's practiced every enemy pattern, using that fire rod, stopping his dashes to slash to the side, and just taking care of everything very efficiently on what was not some of the best patterns I've ever seen in those rooms. Yep. And getting a beautiful one-cycle limb or two.
Now coming up, we got some really interesting menu from Blunt, but no big deal. Some of the funnest rooms in the game, in the Wizrobe rooms, just interesting use of the Can of Samaria here to clear out the Wizrobes quickly. Ooh! Getting rocked a little bit on the bridge. Still in a decent position as far as health goes.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, it's like you said about Ganon's Tower. You use pretty much every item that you've gotten in the game. You know, besides, like, the book and the flute, you're really utilizing every single thing throughout this tower. It's really a lot of fun. And Blunt continuing to get rid of the rest of his bombs. And also taking an extra heart of damage there. Feels confident going into the end of this Ganon's Tower on his health.
Alright, third of 4 Light World boss refights. This one is Moldorm, smaller platform, but with the Tempered Sword, a pretty trivial fight. And with that, we will be entering the Helma Hellway, and on to the final Light World boss refight, the Agahnim 2 fight. The Agahnim 2 fight is a little bit different in that there are now 3 of them. You can only damage the real one that's not translucent. Looked like Blunt got a double there.
Yeah, it can be very hard to get even 2 hits. As you saw, the combination of a blue ball and a bad angle can just make it impossible to get even a second hit here. Oh, but a very beautiful, really beautiful third cycle there from Blunt. Very difficult pattern, and was able to adjust his position and get 3 hits in. And gets a great 3 cycle, and is definitely on pace for a 124 in this race.
Yeah. Ganon fight should always, for a runner of this caliber, come in at around a minute 50 or even faster. So let's see what happens. Now, 5 hearts. The pig will do 8 hearts of damage to a green male link, but these runners have spent a lot of time fighting Ganon. Gets through phase 1 with no problem into phase 2. Gonna use hookshot and vulnerability to get 12 slashes in, and then get out of the way of the bats.
Doesn't quite get out of the way in time, and does get the Firebird, I guess you call it, animation after hitting Ganon once, but hasn't gotten any warps yet. Still none. 3 for 3 on 0 warps. And he's got the 0 warp Ganon. Oh man, this Dark World from Blunt has just been really spicy all through.
Kind of an interesting juxtaposition here with the 0 warps this time and the 5 warps and a blue Ganon that he got last time.
Well, you know, both races so far, the players have defied the blue balls, and execution has dominated. You saw Blunt really start to pull ahead with that zero cycle Argus, and really has just continued to play incredibly well throughout this entire Dark World. And what a time he's going to hear. That might be a gold Ganon. Maybe, probably not, but just very, very solid Ganon fight. I think it was around a 145.
Yeah. And with an official Speed Racing TV time of 1:24:34, BluntBunny evens up this best of 3 series, taking it to 1-1.
And let me just point out, that time that he got, that is Josh's PB. So he tied Josh's PB in this race. He was 19 seconds from his own PB. And given how back and forth it was, that's 19 seconds that we can imagine him saving very easily. So incredible performance from Blunt. Absolutely phenomenal. I think that's the best time in the tournament so far.
That is the best time in the tournament so far. Previously, the best time in the tournament was a 1:24:52 from Josh. So there's a reason these two are in the finals.
Absolutely incredible.
We're going to see if Blunt wants to mosey on in here as Josh finishes up Ganon's tower. Josh is going to make his way through the Helm of Hellway here. Now, he is down to 3.5 hearts. The Aga 2 fight shouldn't really be that big of a deal, but we're now joined by the winner of Game 2 of this best of 3, BluntBunny, with a spicy 1:24:34. GG, very well played.
Rolling in.
Absolutely incredible run, Blunt. I don't know if you were watching, but up until Turtle Rock, the biggest gap between the two of you was 5 seconds. And somehow, well, it looked like your Dark World execution was just really on point. How do you feel about this run?
I wasn't paying attention at all. Like, this time I had my chat closed, everything closed, but I felt all right about this run. I mean, it was just, I was getting, like, I got a lot of really weird stuff that happened, but I mean, it's a 1:24. It's my first 1:24 in the tournament, so
it's actually the best time in the tournament, period.
Oh yeah, what was it before? 1:24.
1:24:52.
Oh, my old PB.
So Josh dropping into the Ganon fight right now. Yeah, if you have not been following, both of you lost your prize packs.
Oh, we both did? Oh,
yes.
Man, I was so mad when that happened, dude.
And then what happened, just like the Chomps room kind of swung things around last race, Josh took a death in Chomps.
Oh, no.
And then Josh took a death after bottom left Pokey. And then Josh took a death on Trinex. So...
oh my god, I feel so bad. What was his, how many blue balls did he get?
2.
He had one blue ball, and you had 2.
Okay.
So the biggest lead he had was after blue balls, when he was ahead by 5 seconds. And then the biggest lead that you had was about 7 seconds after Mire 2, after Mire 2 Wizrow. And that went down to about 4 or 5 seconds, which maintained until Chomp's room.
Yeah, it was really quick. It was like he got hit, and then as soon as his iframes were up, he got smacked again.
That's what I was worried about. That's like the worst like that's what goes through my head when I lose the prize pack. Is like Chomps is like the worst thing that can happen usually.
And both of you got hit by a blue jelly on the platforms too. I thought for a second that one of you might consider, because you guys also both took damage in the overworld. I thought for a second one of you might consider mirroring out, but
no, I would have mirrored if I was low on health. But what I usually do is just grab that magic and heart after the roller room.
And Josh finishing up with an official Speed Racing TV time of 1:29.22. So GG to Josh. Evens it up 1-1 here in the Link to the Past No Major Glitches Tournament Finals. That means the next match is it. That is, it is win or go home for both runners.
Yeah.
And let's just say absolutely incredible time from Josh as well. He must have lost well over 4 minutes on that Turtle Rock alone. So, you know, being able to get a 129 with 3 deaths, including one on Trinex, that's just phenomenal. So absolutely phenomenal race. Tremendous execution from both players. Yeah, I don't even know what to say if you weren't watching. It was so close. The number of lead changes. There was, I believe there was a lead change in almost every dungeon up until Mire.
Oh my god. Well, I'm glad it was a good race, because I got 2, and I, like, forced myself to not check this time, because I think that may have, like, kind of tilted me a little bit when I had seen that I had a big lead in the last race. So I just decided to just play the game and not worry about anything.
Yeah, Josh has opted to not pop in and have a chat with us. A totally understandable decision, but you know, like I said, it is 1-1 now. So we're gonna give the runners a couple of days to think about things and get their game 3 scheduled, which I am fairly certain will be right back here on Speed Gaming. I mean, you've got a little bit of if such a thing were to exist, and I'm not sure that I believe that it does. With a 124.34 coming out of this, you've got a little bit of momentum going into the deciding match. Do you got anything in particular that you're gonna go and grind out or practice, or are you just gonna?
I need to like do Ice Palace for 10,000 hours. I think. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's I can't do that segment without losing at least 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just unacceptable for me. It really is unacceptable. But I mean, the thing to focus on is really just end game stuff. Like, that stuff is the most important. Josh, I assume, does the same thing. So, but yeah, no, just Ice. Really, Ice needs some work. And my Light World's terrible, but that's been like that since the Stone Age, so.
He says after being on the pyramid at 28.
Well, your standards kind of change, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pretty decent Light World, I guess, for, like, I think out of all the tournament matches, that's probably been my best Light World. I think every race, something catastrophic. Oh, I had a 4-cycle Lamolas, too, which was...
Yeah, you had that early tour where you killed him with the poke. I mean, you only had both of you had a 1040 Eastern. Both of you had a 553 escape. Trying to remember what else happened in Light World. You had some problem in Desert Escape, right? But then he messed up his fake flippers, so that basically evened out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a really, really fascinating Light World, actually.
I'll definitely have to go back and watch this, I guess. I wasn't sure, like, I feel like it's better to just play like this where I don't know where Josh is.
Yeah,
that does play a big role, I think, in the pressure.
Yeah, that seemed to serve you well. I feel like if you know where your opponent is, you kind of start feeling all this mental pressure to think about what decisions to make and
right.
And like how to, and it's just all these other complexities that go into your decision-making process. And it may be that for a certain kind of runner, the right thing to do is just you play your game room by room and not even let it enter your head at all.
Yeah, I agree. That's very difficult to do, even like if you're not in a tournament situation too. It's just this game just really knows how to bully you. I don't know if you guys like were paying attention in the swamp, but
Yeah, you got knocked around really badly in Swamp, and actually, Swamp
So-
is really funny because you guys went in even, and then Josh had trouble pushing the lever near the beginning. But then you got hit around by so many enemies. Just buzz blobs, and in the Michael Phelps room was just horrible. And other tektites elsewhere. And then you got the Zero Cycle, which was actually the biggest difference between the two of you up until Turtle Rock was you getting the Zero Cycle and him missing it. So you pulled back ahead with that, but it was incredible how Swamp, like every room seemed to chip away at your lead by at least a few frames just because of enemy movements.
yeah, it's a really bad dungeon. I used to really like it, but now it's just starting to irritate me because it's some of that stuff. It's really hard to either react to, or sometimes you just can't do anything about it. You just gotta get. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that is just about going to wrap it up for us. And I think that about wraps it up for the Speed Gaming channels. They're going to go ahead and toss some reruns for you. But if you check in on the Speed Gaming networks over the next few days, you're going to see a link to the past randomizer tournament, which I believe is in brackets. You've got the Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze tournament, Near Automata, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, tournament going on. Looks like the Ultima Decathlon, and then you've got your normal array of weeklies and community races that you'll find. So for all of your speed gaming needs, speed gaming through Speed Gaming 5, make sure you give them all a follow. And we will be back here at a point to be determined in the very near future with Game 3, the deciding game. Go ahead and follow our runners, twitch.tv/BluntBunny, twitch.tv/JoshRTA. Make sure you give a follow to my co-commentator, who is always a delight, the one and only runner watcher, who got us, I think, at least halfway through the Zodiac. In the
It was the year of the
race.
bunny today. I just wanted to say that. The year of the bunny.
The year of the bunny.
Oh wow.
But I think that'll do it for us for Speed Gaming. I want to say thank you, and I have been and will continue to be Scrivo. Say goodnight, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Thanks.
So
for
glad you
the
guys
commentary.
humor me with that every time. Rolling out.
Rolling out.
Yeah.
Yeah.